Myths and mockery. The ISS Varkari hovered in high orbit above the blue-green world known to its inhabitants as Earth. The observation vessel wasn't built for war or diplomacy. It was a floating university, a ship for scientists, analysts, and the occasional military attachment, all tasked with studying the young species below. To the Rinthari Empire, humanity was a curiosity at best, a footnote in galactic development at worst. In the crew lounge, a group of Rinthari soldiers clustered around a projection console. Their chitinous limbs clicked occasionally against the metal floor as they leaned in, watching grainy holographic snippets of ancient Earth entertainment. "Play the one with the red-caped hammer beast again," said Lieutenant Grix, flicking his antennae in amusement. His carapace gleamed with the green stripes of his rank, junior officer, though self-important beyond measure. The console chirped, replaying a scene from an old Earth film. Thunder cracked, a hammer spun, and a godlike figure in crimson took to the skies. Laughter erupted. It was a chorus of insectoid clicks and wheezing gasps. "This is how they process warfare." Grix sneered. "Through fantasy. This Thor fights with lightning while smiling. Their species romanticizes pain." Private Nulith, the youngest among them, tilted his head. "They call it mythology. Fiction. Symbolism, perhaps." Grix waved a claw dismissively. "Excuses for weakness. They create heroes to hide the fact they've none in reality." Around him, the others nodded. The humans' mythologies were endless. Gods from the sky, warriors born of tragedy, soldiers who lifted tanks and punched through planets. All nonsense, all easily dismissed by species that had mastered interstellar war and watched stars be born and die. "Listen to this one," Grix said, pulling up another file. A human named Captain America, a soldier injected with something called serum that made him unstoppable. He wielded a shield. A shield. More laughter. Nulith hesitated. "Still, we record these for a reason. Even if fictional, their persistence says something about the species." Perhaps they are cowards who dream loudly," Grix cut in. "They invent strength in stories because they have none in their bones." Behind them, the lounge doors hissed open. Captain Sarn stepped in, his presence silencing the room instantly. The oldest among them, Sarn's exoskeletal plates bore deep scars that no regeneration pod could fix. His movements were slow but exact, and his single remaining eye glowed dimly beneath a polished optic lens. He'd survived more campaigns than most Rinthari had witnessed rotations of their home star. "What are we laughing at now?" he asked without humor. Grix straightened. "Just reviewing some of the humans' mythological constructs, sir." "Laughable, truly." Sarn glanced at the paused projection, Captain America holding his shield against impossible odds. A long silence stretched. "Funny," the captain murmured. "That one almost got it right." The room tensed. Even Grix leaned forward slightly. "Sir." Sarn walked past them, resting one clawed hand on the console as if to feel the image more than see it. "You mock them because you see the stories as exaggerations," he said. "But you don't understand the root. Myths are not dreams. They're echoes." "Echoes of what?" Grix asked. "Of something real," Sarn said, still not looking at them. "Something they encountered. Or became." The silence grew heavier, weighted by something beyond confusion. Fear, maybe. Sarn had a reputation. A relic from the old war, before peace treaties, before humans were declared irrelevant by the galactic consensus. Nulith spoke cautiously. "Sir, are you saying humans have actual warriors like this?" Sarn finally turned, his voice low. "They had one. I saw him." A cold stillness fell over the room. The projection flickered and looped again, fictional Captain America, standing alone against armies. Sarn's eyes didn't blink. "Dismissed," he said at last, walking away. The young soldiers didn't laugh this time. As the doors closed behind their captain, Grix leaned back, his amusement now tainted with something unfamiliar, uncertainty. For the first time, the myths didn't seem so funny. The missing files. The mission was routine, at least, according to the briefing. A derelict listening post, designation Vetrax 9, had reappeared on long-range scans after centuries of silence. The Rinthari Empire wanted it checked for residual tech, salvageable data, or dangerous artifacts. Standard recon. Low risk. Captain Sarn knew better. This station dates back to the old war, he said flatly as the dropship cut through the station's magnetic debris field. Keep your sensors tight and your mandibles tighter. Lieutenant Grix scoffed but didn't speak. His earlier bravado from the rec room had faded. Sarn hadn't mentioned the human again since that quiet warning, but the implication had lingered. Private Nulith gripped his pulse rifle, eyes scanning the decaying station exterior as it drew closer. Vetrax 9 looked like a corpse, half its hull torn by weapons fire, the rest coated in space dust and solar pitting. The docking bay barely responded to their codes, groaning open like a reluctant tomb. They entered guns up. Inside, gravity flickered. Air was stale but breathable. The walls were scorched with carbon scoring, and the remnants of battle were still scattered across the floor. Dried ichor, shredded plating, burned-out terminals. "This place hasn't been touched since the war," Grix muttered. "Why would anyone abandon a station like this?" "Because it's cursed," Sarn said simply, already walking toward the central data core. The others hesitated, then followed. Inside the command center, they found the mainframe, mostly intact. Nulith linked into the terminal, trying not to flinch at the blinking red, death count unknown, warning still active in the corner of the screen. "Some files are still recoverable," he reported. "A few tactical logs, comms records. Strange, though. There's a whole encrypted section marked H-class combatant. Military clearance required." Sarn stepped forward without hesitation, inserting a tiny crystalline chip into the access slot. The screen flickered. The encryption dropped. Dozens of logs filled the display, but only fragments survived. Flickering images. Static-covered voice notes. Internal memos. One thing was consistent across them all. Classification: H-Combatant 1A. Designation: Hellwalker. Species: Human. A still image slowly loaded, low resolution, black and white. A humanoid figure, shirtless and soaked in blood, standing atop a mound of alien corpses. The face was obscured, but the posture radiated something primal. Nulith whispered, "Is this real?" "Partially," Sarn replied, his voice tight. "What's left is only a shadow." The logs described impossible things. An individual deployed in missions rated 100% fatal by command AI. Survived every one. Rescued entire units single-handedly. Went without food or rest for days. Recovered from injuries that should have killed him within minutes. Grix leaned in. "This can't be accurate. One unmodified human doing this? These reports are exaggerated." Sarn didn't speak. He simply opened one final log, heavily corrupted, but with audio intact. "Enemy breached Line Sigma. All units lost except H-class asset." He did not retreat. He charged, screaming. I watched him rip a Threx tank open with a mining tool. The screams didn't stop. Not his, not theirs. He looked at me afterward. Smiled. Asked if I had a smoke. Silence. "Do you understand now?" Sarn said, quietly. "You laugh at their myths. But this was no god. No comic book savior. Just a human who refused to die." Nulith's eyes were wide. "But why was he here? With us?" "Volunteered," Sarn said. "They'd only just made contact with the wider galaxy. We dismissed them. But he didn't care. Said he'd seen enough of war on Earth, and ours couldn't be worse. He asked to fight. Command thought it'd be funny to let him try. A mascot, they called him." "And?" Grix asked, throat dry. Sarn met his gaze. "He outlived the entire division." The room was cold now, colder than the dead station. The idea of a human surviving those campaigns with no enhancements was more unsettling than any myth. Myths didn't bleed. This man had. Nulith quietly copied the remaining files to a secure drive. "What happened to him?" "Last I heard," Sarn said, "he went missing on a black site deployment. Declared Kia, but no body was ever recovered." They exited the station in silence. The image of the lone warrior burned into their minds. No one mocked Earth's mythology on the return trip. Not anymore. The war hero's silence. The silence aboard the ISS Varkari had turned heavy, almost reverent. After recovering the data logs from Vetrax 9, the squad had grown quiet. No more jokes in the lounge. No more derisive snorts at human stories. Just unease and questions. None of them dared voice those questions aloud, except Nulith. He found Captain Sarn alone in the armory, sharpening the curved edge of his ancestral blade. It was ceremonial, rarely used, but Sarn always kept it razor-sharp, as if waiting. Nulith cleared his throat. "Captain, may I speak freely?" Sarn didn't look up. "If you couldn't, I'd have told you already." The young private hesitated, then stepped forward. "The human. The one they called the Hellwalker. You were there, weren't you?" Sarn paused mid-stroke. "I was," he said after a moment. "What was he like?" Nulith asked. "Not the reports. Not the myths. The real one." Sarn set the blade down and slowly sat. "You want the truth," he said. "Fine. But you won't like it." Nulith nodded. Sarn's voice dropped, slow and low. "He wasn't big. Not by galactic standards. Average size, lean build. No cybernetics. No armor worth mentioning. Just skin and stubbornness. His name was lost in the records, but we called him the Hellwalker." "Why?" Sarn's eyes narrowed, distant. "Because when hell opened, he walked straight in, and didn't come out the same." He exhaled, mandibles twitching slightly. "I was a field officer on Ravelar 4 during the worst of the Threxian push. We were outnumbered 5-1. The Threx had orbital superiority, automated siege drones, tunneling shock troops. Our command structure collapsed within hours. The only reason I'm alive is because of him." Nulith leaned in. Sarn continued. "I watched him charge a trench line with a broken beam rifle and a mining axe. He moved like he didn't care about dying, like pain just slowed him down, not stopped him. Took 3 slashes across the chest, blood everywhere. Didn't fall. Just got angrier. Kept going." He paused, staring into the past. "War changes everyone," Sarn muttered. "But that man, war didn't change him. It revealed him. Showed what humanity really was under the skin. Not gods. Not monsters. Survivors." "But how?" Nulith asked. "How could a human do all that without augmentation?" Sarn's eye fixed on him. "Because you and I fight to win. He fought because there was no other choice. He lost everything before he came to us. Family, country, maybe even his world. He didn't want revenge. He wanted purpose. And war gave it to him." Nulith swallowed. "What happened to him after Ravelar 4? Sarn looked down at his claws. "He was reassigned. Special operations. Classified deployments. Black missions. The kind you don't come back from." "And did he?" "No. Or maybe he did. No one knows. One day, his beacon went silent. No body. No message. Just silence." A long pause settled between them. "Sir," Nulith said quietly, "why haven't we told the rest of the galaxy?" Sarn chuckled dryly. "Because if they knew what one human could do, what they're capable of, they wouldn't laugh. They'd panic." He rose, picking up the blade again. His voice turned grave. "We mock their myths because it makes us feel safe. But I've seen what those myths are hiding. You want to know what terrified the Threx High Command more than orbital strikes?" "What?" "A man with a knife and nothing left to lose." Sarn walked toward the exit, but stopped in the doorway. "Tell Grix to stop watching those holovids. He's looking for jokes. He should be looking for warnings." Nulith stood there for a long time after Sarn left, the hum of the ship the only sound around him. He thought of the shield-bearer, the hammer-wielder, the burning-eyed warriors of Earth's myths. And then he thought of the man, flesh and blood, who walked into the worst hell the galaxy had to offer and came out with no medals, no fame, and no name. Just a legend. And somewhere, Nulith realized, that legend might still be alive. Echoes of the Hellwalker. The distress call came without warning. Encrypted. High priority. Coordinates deep in uncharted space. a black site research facility under the Rinthari Defense Directorate, long believed abandoned. Captain Sarn stood motionless as the data scrolled across the holodisplay in the command chamber of the ISS Varkari. The message was less than 10 seconds long, cut off mid-broadcast. But the fear in the voice transmitting it was unmistakable. "We've made contact with unknown entity, requesting immediate evac. He's awake. He's..." Silence. Sarn didn't hesitate. "Prep for immediate jump. Full strike loadout. This isn't a rescue, it's a recovery." Lieutenant Grix blinked. "Recovery of what, sir?" Sarn turned, his eye hard as iron. "Someone we lost a long time ago." The black site was a skeleton. Orbiting a dead moon, the station had been built into a hollowed-out asteroid, perfectly shielded from outside detection. But now, it was cracked open like an egg. Scorch marks marred the entryway, and one side of the facility hung in the void, ruptured. No response from internal systems. No life signs. No enemy vessels in sight. Nulith stepped through the breach first, pulse rifle scanning. Signs of combat. No bodies. The team moved cautiously through the dim, flickering corridors, guided by Sarn's memory more than any map. He had been here once, briefly, long ago. It had been a classified R&D site, studying unconventional warfare assets. Namely, one human. After several minutes of searching, they reached the core containment chamber. Reinforced walls. Multiple failsafes. All disabled. A massive stasis pod stood at the center of the room. And inside it, he was there. Human. Mid-30s by appearance. Shirtless. Scarred. Muscular without being bulky. Breathing slowly in deep cryo-sleep, his body untouched by time. Wires ran from ports in the walls into his spine, but there were no monitors, no readings. Only the dull red pulse of the pod's heartlight. Grix stared, mouth open. "That's him." Sarn nodded once. "The Hellwalker. But how? Why is he still alive?" "Human biology is strange," Sarn said. "Their resilience isn't just physical. It's psychological. You can't break what refuses to bend." Nulith stepped closer. "Sir, if he's awake, why hasn't he moved?" Sarn didn't answer. He walked forward and placed a clawed hand against the cryoglass. The light flickered, and the man's eyes opened. There was no confusion, no panic, just a slow inhale, measured, deliberate. Then his eyes locked onto Sarn's. He didn't speak at first. Then, in a voice rough with age and sleep, "Took you long enough." The squad froze. Sarn gave a slow nod. "You were declared Kia. No beacon. No records. We thought." "I know what they thought," the man said. He looked down at the wires, now cracking and falling off like dead vines. "They buried me here because they were afraid." "Afraid of what?" Nulith asked, unable to stop himself. The human stood. The pod hissed open around him. He stepped out barefoot onto the cold floor, flexing fingers that had once carved through enemy lines. "They were afraid I'd stop following orders," he said. "I did the things no one else would. Then they got nervous I'd remember how." He looked around at the aliens. "Who are you?" Sarn gestured to his team. "Soldiers. Scholars. Witnesses." The man grunted. "Still making myths about us?" There was no sarcasm in his tone. Just tiredness. Grix stepped forward. "We thought you were exaggeration. Legend." The human's expression didn't change. "That's the mistake everyone makes. Thinking a man can't be both." Nulith watched him closely. There was no glow, no energy field, no technology humming beneath his skin. And yet, something radiated from him, raw, contained power. Like a blade sheathed just before the strike. "What happens now?" Nulith asked quietly. The man turned toward the corridor, as if sensing a path none of them could see. He cracked his neck and looked back with a faint smile. "Now," he said. "Now I catch up." He walked past them, barefoot, silent as death. The squad parted wordlessly. No one tried to stop him. 2 hours later, aboard the Varkari, Nulith began updating the Central Archives. Under Species Profiles, Human Combat Classification, he added a new line at the bottom. Threat Level, Myth.